So this week's episode of Fairy Gone, we slow things down a tad as we set up for what appears to be a pretty bad sabotage. I really enjoyed learning about these artificial soldiers here, and just what actually goes on with the technicalities and just the overall technical aspects to them, because we can see that supposedly the way they're supposed to work is whoever is pretty much programmed for the day, only they can control them. But as we're seeing, someone has a whistle that can override the commands, and when they go into the inner workings of these soldiers, there's nothing wrong. And that's really interesting because as the characters are piecing together what's going on, they're recognizing that like the only one who could do something like this is someone with connections to the military, people who understand what our technology is like. But even with that said, how is that happening? Because from the information that we were given, this just shouldn't happen. We know they have a whistle, but how could that whistle overwrite basically the program that controls them while not leaving any traces? And that makes me really excited because so far with what we've seen in the technology in this show, there's actually a fair amount of detail to it, and I really enjoy just seeing the simple scenes of soldiers, military, and just other people within this kingdom try to diagnose what's going on, because this will be a very bad disaster if this happens. Because as we can see, the unification ceremony, the world's unified, everything's happily ever after, and the government wants to showcase their newest and greatest technology so nothing bad could happen. If they go ahead and don't pull these fake soldiers, and they go rampaging around in the city hurting innocent people, this unification is going to get even more sloppy and broken than it already is. And that's really exciting. The idea for that is just so interesting because clearly the government as it is, it's very close to shattering and crumbling, and once that happens, pretty much the throne is up for grabs to whoever wants it and can keep it down with enough power. So if you have someone who's either working with someone like Wolfren or anyone with enough military power to back crumbling down a kingdom, it will be interesting to see where they want to go with that. And I found that to be quite interesting because in the middle of trying to piece together, we have like 3 days left before the ceremony. Obviously the government's not going to pull their newest and greatest technology away because they have to show the people that they're doing interesting things with the power that they've been given, so they continue to have trust in them. But as you're seeing this, you're seeing all the little parties kind of scramble to not only find the Black Fairy Tome, but also try to figure out who the hell is behind this, and I found that to be quite interesting. Even more interesting is we didn't get a flashback in the episode, we got a flashback after the credits, which was an interesting turn of events, and it'll be interesting to see where it's going to go with Bittersweet and her backstory. Bittersweet, though, I have to say, the more I see of this character, the more I really love her, because she's such a sassy and manipulative person that you never really know what her endgame is, because at every moment that you think she's laying her cards out on the table, she has an extra one up her sleeve. Like, she's working with Dorothea, saying like, hey, I don't even want this tome, I just want to look at it and then you can have it. But then we learn in this episode that anything that she looks at, she basically can memorize, so she wouldn't even need the tome. She could replicate it if it is just information and you don't actually have to have the physical object to use its power. Like, there's so much interesting things at play, and the fact that she's saying, like, I'm giving you 2 members of Dorothea, it'll be interesting to see how much they are in on that plan, or if she did pull a fast one on them. They did look a little shocked, but not totally shocked when she did drop that ball on Warlock there. Like, this is just so interesting seeing how everyone is, like, kind of willing to work with the other if it will get to where they need to go. But once they get to where they need to go and the objective is clear as day, not behind a locked bar, that's when everyone's going to betray each other. And I really like that because you really still don't know what the end game is for when they get these tomes, especially the Black Fairy Tome. Like, what can you truly do with that? Do they want to overthrow a government? Do they want money or power? Do they want to change their own personal history? Like, it'll be interesting to see what the true objective is for all of these parties, but most importantly, what's going to happen at that ceremony in a few days, because they really seem to be trying to perfect their corruption, because each time they've used these whistles, they've only been able to really alter one, and it's going to be interesting to see if the reason for that is because they can only, like, one whistle for each of the bots there. But it seems like even if they do manipulate one, they'll need quite a few because they can just send another one or a human to take them out. Imagine if they had 10 of these whistles and 10 of those suits of armor killed innocent people. Like, that's not going to look good for the government because that's their technology. You can clearly see, like, the overall mindset, but you can also see that they haven't perfected this kind of corruption technology. So it'll be quite fascinating to see where they want to go with this, because you can see the government isn't backing down, even though they should pull away the new suits of armor because they're not ready for battle, as seen by the kind of manipulative and almost really sporadic behavior that's going on. And I like that. I like how they're just functioning. I like just the confusion on all sides, and it will be interesting to learn the personal motivations, especially because, like, you can see why they would want to overthrow a government, but like what happens after you overthrow a government? Do you want the power for yourself? Are you working for others? Like what's truly going on? Do they screw over your family? Like you're getting these like little bits and pieces to see like, okay, this is what this person did. They got demoted in the war. Is that their personal motivation? They want revenge, or do they want the power for themselves? Do they have another person in mind that would put them in power? There's a lot of interesting little pieces at play, and that's what makes Fairy Gone so fascinating to me. And it has been confirmed that this will be a split core, so the other 12 episodes to this season will air in October through December, which I actually think is a good move to allow for enough production time so they don't have to rush things out, and also just flesh everything that they need to. Overall, with this episode, it wasn't like the strongest out of all the episodes, but it was a very fascinating one, and I think a very crucial episode with all the information that we learn about not only how they're corrupting these suits of armor, but also seeing all the pieces kind of line up to where they all want to go, and that's going to be quite interesting. I really like the politics to the series. It's the best part of the show, in my honest opinion. Learning about the war, learning about what's happening after the war, because anytime you have stories set pretty close to after a major war ends, especially one that kind of unified all the countries, but not everyone is playing ball, you have a lot of interesting ways to go, and as you can see, with a big ceremony, a big parade celebrating your political triumphs, and then you have people trying to sabotage your military tech to make it look like the people won't have trust in you anymore. And I mean, you only have 2 of your closest advisors left who haven't tried to kill you. This is a very shaky landscape, but even with all the interesting political stuff, I'm really glad to see that the personalities continue to pop more and more as we get to know them. The fun scenes, the simple scenes, the flirtatious, and just the silly. I do appreciate that because it helps give them a sense of personality and not just a copy and paste soldier who has nothing but just their grand intentions of fixing the government, things of that nature. And that's what makes it fun. So you can have simple and fun scenes while you focus on the serious and very info-heavy sequences. So you can have all this information, make your mind race, but then pull back and have some simplistic scenes to really kind of ease you back down so you don't feel overwhelmed like a lot of series set in this style would feel, which I know in the intro a lot of people thought it was too much info, but I really think if people have stuck with it, they're gonna feel a lot different because there is a lot of personality, there's a lot of simplistic while also having that major info and very kind of intense sequences where you're like, holy shit, an entire kingdom can fall. And that makes it exciting. I'm really enjoying the voice actors. I really feel like they're getting into their roles more and more, really giving it some passion there, especially in the more flirtatious and cute scenes where you just have people trying to be like, I don't care if you think I'm cute, but you can kind of see the subtle mannerisms where they're kind of like, it sounds like they're a little happy, but they're trying to play kind of hard to get, which I really like. I would say the aspect that caught my eye the most in this episode that I wasn't expecting to enjoy is some of the faces we haven't really got to focus on too much by themselves, but seeing a lot of these military members and just you can recognize the concern in their mannerisms, just how their body language is being presented, how they're talking to their superiors, because things are going very wrong, and whenever you have a political climate like this trying to say you have to fix it, even though they know there is no way to fix it, but they say you have to use these pieces of technology, make sure they function, but pretty much everyone except the leader is saying, this is impossible, we don't have an answer to your question, and they're saying, use these nuclear bombs on innocent people. I like that because you have, like, you can understand the mentality of, you have all this great power, you gotta make sure the people trust that you're innovating, you're really showcasing why you deserve the throne, but at the same time, you recognize pretty much everyone in the military saying, like, if we use this, people are gonna die. And I always enjoy situations like that because you can understand both sides' perspectives. You obviously will side more on the army because they're like, look at what's been going on. Every day we're losing control of some of our technology. This isn't going to be good, especially if they're surrounding innocent people. But at the same time, you can see, like, just the idea of you literally had this giant war. Everyone pretty much said, you're okay to be leader after all was said and done. You really got to make sure that you still have the trust, and it makes it seem like you're the best fit for the throne, and I like that. It's such an interesting concept, and Fairy Gone has all these interesting political pieces at play, while also having that more personal touch, and I think that's what really will sell the show by the end, is when you really see all the political pieces come to checkmate and see what truly was going on this entire time, and what the end result is truly going to look like, because Fairy Gone, honestly, the more you see the politics, the more interesting it becomes, at least for myself. It's just a fun series to me, and I think for the most part, the people who have been watching this are enjoying it. It's just a lot of people fell off early. If that's how they felt, I mean, that's how they felt, right? But I think for those that do continue with this show, we're going to have a damn fine time, especially knowing that this is going to be 24 episodes of split core and not rush into complete things. This is going to be a very fun show. For everyone who did watch this week's episode of Fairy Gone, what did you think? Did you like the slower pace, the kind of setup to the corruption, or was there something else you really wanted to see in this week's episode? Let me know down in the comment section below, and if you did enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.